Deja vu at the MCG. Dusty in hot water up in Sydney. And the Lions pinch a 3-0 start to this season. Kane Cornes, welcome to the round so far. And only Dom Sheed could have scripted this opening.
It was unbelievable, isn't it? It wasn't a performance by the Eagles at the MCG tonight. Not sure many of us predicted this, but Ryan, there he is again, Flying Ryan. We saw it in the grand final late. Off to Dom Sheed for his 24th disposal and his third goal. Not in the same position, but pretty similar to the last kick in the grand final last year. And he just told the Collingwood fans nice and subtly, I've done it again.
Andrew Gaff back with 35 disposals. Mark Hutchings doing a job this time on Scott Pendlebury after taking out Steele Sidebottom in last year's decider. Do the Eagles deserve to be premiership favourites right now?
Absolutely, yeah. They deserve to be premiership favourites. I think them and Geelong at the moment. But considering the footy that the Eagles are playing, sometimes when you win the flag, it takes you a bit to get going. But they've started so well. They've got 11 of the next 19 at home. So we know how hard they are to beat there. If they can get Rioli and perhaps Nat Nui back and play some footy, it's going to be a brave person to tip against them.
The Pies slipped to 1-2. A pretty quiet night for Mason Cox at the office. But this one caught our eye. Taylor Adams playing his first game back after a hand injury. Looks like he might be spending at least a week on the sidelines.
Yeah, just watched the hit there on the Norm Smith medalist Luke Shuey. Now, it did remind us of something that Stephen May did in the pre-season. So that's not a dirty action by any means. And you could even argue that perhaps there's not head contact there. But when you look at May getting suspended in the JLT for a hit on Berry, then very similar, isn't it? So he probably has to get a week. Now, I don't like this action getting a week because I don't think it's necessarily high. The elbow's not raised, the ball was within 5 metres, but those two incidents, very similar, and he probably gets a week.
May got a week as well, so he looks like spending and missing next week's game for the Pies against the Dogs. Now, the sliding rule, we've all spoken about it over the last 12 months. It reared its ugly head again tonight. Tom Phillips giving away this free kick to Jamie Cripps.
Yeah, well, the players are so frustrated by that, and so are the fans and the media now. This rule was brought in for a dangerous action, an action that is going to cause injury. That action there is not going to cause injury. If you are first to the ball and if the action isn't dangerous, it shouldn't be a free kick. So the umpires need to have some feel for what's a dangerous action, what's not. That's not, and that's why the players are so frustrated, and it needs to go back to the original version of what it was brought in for.
Well, one big-name superstar took to social media, and that's where we find Mel Horsey. Mel, the players are outraged by this.
They are, and we don't often see current players discuss umpiring publicly, but that incident tonight was enough to tip Patrick Dangerfield over the edge. He took to Twitter to label that sliding rule an absolute disgrace. He actually followed it up with another tweet that was almost even snarkier. He basically said, look, kids, forget going in low and hard, forget putting your head over the ball. That's all out the window now. So he's clearly not a fan of that interpretation tonight, guys. But he's not the only one. There's been a host of former players, particularly, pretty annoyed with the standard of the umpiring this weekend. We'll start with former Demon Brad Green. He took to Twitter several times, actually. He said there needs to be investigation into the umpiring. We saw tanking back in the news this week. Well, at one stage he tweeted saying that perhaps the umpires are tanking. And then he followed it up with a final tweet that I think summed up the thoughts and feelings of a lot of footy fans this weekend. And that was that the game's over-officiated, and he suggested that the umpires put the whistle away. So I think a lot of people can relate to that frustration. But he's not the only former player, as I said, that's been annoyed with the umpiring this weekend. Former Hawk Xavier Ellis, he actually empathised with the umpires. And Kane, I'm keen to get your thoughts on this one. Xavier said that you need a 10-year degree to blow the whistle out there these days, and that even Stephen Hawking couldn't interpret the rules these days. Is it a matter of the umpires getting it a bit wrong, or have we just got too many rules now?
It's a bit of both, I think, Mel. I think that one with the sliding rule, they're paying the decisions correctly. Yep. So I'm not blaming the umpires for that. That is the lawmakers that have brought that in. There are some umpiring decisions, though, that are inconsistent in your question, but that one there that we've just spoken about, that's from above. That's not the umpire's fault, and they need to be given clear instruction and clear direction. And with such a backlash from influential figures like Dangerfield, I'll be surprised if something doesn't happen with this year or at the end of the year.
And one other current player as well on Twitter.
Yeah, so this was the one that really caught my eye this weekend. So it started with Brendan Favola very sarcastically saying the umpires are awesome, no doubt. But one of the replies caught my eye. Freo's Hayden Ballantyne, of course. He's jumped in and said no one ever says that. But he quickly deleted it, probably realising he could get himself in some hot water. But of course, he didn't delete it quick enough, Mitch, because I still managed to see it and bring it to you, which got me thinking, Kane, you're the perfect combination of outspoken and you love Twitter. Have you deleted some tweets in your time?
Yeah, I think I have, more so for spelling errors. Twitter needs an edit button. Why it doesn't have an edit button, but yeah, it's once it's there, it's there. We know it. Someone's going to be pretty quick to screen grab that.
All right, thanks for that, Mel. One man who would have liked his time over again was Dustin Martin up there in Sydney today. 2 controversial incidents. First, this off-the-ball hit. I think he's going to cop a week for this. It's high off the ball and pretty intentional.
Certainly a week. If Grimes is getting a week for a similar one last week, now that was in play, that's off the ball. So that's definitely a week there. And then this one here with the action after he kicks her behind. Now, we're not sure who this action is directed to. Firstly, he puts his middle finger up, so he'll get a fine for that, you'd think, Mitch, and then this one as well. So he's frustrated. He had a poor day at the office, 15 disposals. He's had a poor year. And since he signed that big contract, I should say, 6 years for probably the highest paid contracted player in the game, he's been disappointing.
Dusty's frustrated. His coach tried to fly the flag post-game.
Why do you reckon he might give away that free kick?
Reckon they'll probably contact.
Well, at the end of the day, blokes come to watch the number 4 play. Let the bloke play the game. Protect the ball carrier, is what I'm saying. Don't get me wrong, DeBoer did a terrific job, but, geez.
So I love that from a coach who's backing up his player. But come on, Dimmer. He played the game as hard as anyone. He was a niggler, Damien Hardwick. You do what you need to do to win. Outstanding coaching from Leon Cameron to do that and get under the skin of one of the game's best players. And then we're not out there to give guys the footy, or here you go, you have it because you're a good player. That's never happened in this game. So for Damien Hardwick, he's frustrated, Martin's frustrated, but of course he's going to be targeted like the best players have been targeted for years. So I hope we see the resurgence of the tagger, because we've seen some people do some good jobs in the AFL recently, and you can just show it can go a long way to you winning the game.
One man who was on fire today was Jeremy Cameron, our Saturday star. 7 goals, 30 disposals. He could do absolutely no wrong.
Extraordinary numbers when you look at it. Career high 30 disposals, as you said, 16 score involvements, 7 marks inside 50. Now, Richmond took 9 marks inside 50 as a team. He's taken 7. So I think we all know, and we've all seen glimpses, more than glimpses, because he's been a very, very good player. But we have been waiting for this guy to come and emerge as one of the game's best players. Perhaps this year is his year. Rewalt's going to miss a few, so the Coleman medal probably unrealistic for him. But what a performance, a match-winning one from Jeremy Cameron, and we all love watching him do what he did today.
There was no Rance, no Grimes, and Jayden Shaw went down with this gruesome injury in the opening term. Look away now if you don't enjoy injuries for MLC. He's going to be a big loss if this is going to keep him out for a few weeks.
Yeah, and add to that, some reports that Trent Cotchin has also got a hammy. So they head to Adelaide to take on Port Adelaide next week. No Rance, Grimes will be back, but possibility of no Martin, no Short, and no Cotchin, the captain. And it's been a long time since Richmond have faced challenges like this.
08, since the Big Four failed to play at least one of them for the Tigers. So a big week for them. At training to see who can replace them. Up to the Gabba. How about this for the Lions? They looked all but dead and buried in the final term before Lincoln McCarthy flew high, Eric Hipwood got going, and Oscar McInerney, the forward line, singing up there at the Gabba.
Oh, what a story. Yeah, who would have thought Lions would start 3-0? Hipwood was on fire. You see it there, just brushing aside Dougal Howard. Pretty ordinary effort from Dougal there, coming back in. But 5 goals in the first half for Hipwood, and that mark there, what a recruit he has been, Lincoln McCarthy. He went back and kicked that goal. So Lachie Neale once again, 43 disposals, 16 clearances if you don't mind, and kicked one of the goals to put the Lions back in front in the last quarter. So he right now is the Brownlow medal favourite, probably along with Patrick Dangerfield, and he's having a gigantic year.
Could have 9 Brownlow votes. Lachie Neale, 6 goals for Eric Hipwood at the Gabba. Straight to Marvel Stadium now, and the Blues, they had their chances in the final term, but another costly effort in front of goals, and they slip and go to zipping 3.
There was 19 inside 50s to 5 in the last quarter. These are some of the missed opportunities that we're showing you here. Look at the scoreline. this is for Carlton to get back into this last quarter. They were dominant, but this is a side that does not know how to win. They have won 3 games out of their last 35, and we've spoken about it before, but I get the sense this side and the coach, Brendan Bolton, lovely guy, great guy, but they are happy and satisfied with honourable losses. We've seen it time and time again. Yes, they'll be happy they've improved a little bit, but they're playing Sydney at home, who are winless, and this isn't the Sydney Swans of old. This is a beatable Sydney team, and once again, they lose. So they've forgotten how to win, and there's massive issues for Carlton, and we shouldn't just sweep it under the rug and say this is a young side, because they're at a similar stage to Brisbane. Brisbane 3-0 and have beat the reigning premiers. Carlton 0-3 again and have won 3 out of the last 32. It's not good enough.
They had a big lapse in concentration in the final term. How about this goal from the Swans? Pretty easy when it was, in the second quarter when the game was on the line.
And this is the type of brain fades that I'm thinking about. You see, that's a goal, but look at the score. Look at the time of the game. That's momentum for the Swans. How can no one go and pick him up, Papley, at the top of the goal square? That is a brain fade. He's surrounded by 6 or 7 Carlton players, but no one is disciplined enough to go and put their arm across, and you have a shot that's a 50-50 at best to a gimme goal. So that's the things that Carlton fans should be disappointed by.
Massive game for them next week against Gold Coast. Now, there was plenty of injuries out of this game. Mitch McGovern started with a hamstring. He sat out the rest of the game. Plus, Will Hayward and his jaw just didn't go right at the Marvel Stadium today.
Yeah, this one's interesting as well. Hayward's a very good young player. He's having a good game. So I just wonder whether Cade Simpson has a case to answer there. Probably not, because he didn't elect to bump. He was probably going for the ball. So just unlucky that happens. And McGovern, with the hammy, and also seeing the veteran McVeigh just absolutely bang a quad or tear a quad there. So you'd expect him to miss, I don't know, look nasty, 6 to 8.
Mel spoke about the umpires before. How about this kicking in danger that they missed for Buddy? He almost was decapitated in front of our very eyes.
I think this is what frustrates fans and players, because last week they're so willing to pay a little tap from Sicily or a little bump from Lysette, yet he nearly gets his head taken off. Now, no contact was made, thank goodness, but that's play on. So that is far more dangerous than what James Sicily did last week, or what Scott Lysette did with a little bump or a little push. Surely the umpire right there's 3 of them, and no one thought that was a dangerous kicking in danger motion.
There was 51 free kicks paid on Friday night. The Bombers, they went from kicking 14 goals in the first fortnight to 20 goals against the Demons, and it was all too easy at the MCG.
I think we were reminded, particularly in the third quarter, of just how dangerous this Essendon side can be. We haven't seen it yet, but 7 goals in the third quarter. But Melbourne's defensive system is broken. Now, I don't know if Simon Goodwin has tried to change it in the off-season, but they took 16 marks inside 50. We're seeing some of them here, and they're all uncontested. I mean, this was just easy football. Melbourne are easy to play against right now, and their defensive action is broken. They give up 20 goals. They had 30 scoring shots from 53 entries. That would tell you there's a lack of buy-in defensively at Melbourne, and big concerns for Simon Goodwin. Look, I think they'll turn it around. They're too good not to, but very slow start, clearly.
No Stephen May, no Jake Lever. That defence was under siege. Now, the narrative leading into this game for the Demons at Norton 2 was their 13 surgeries in the off-season, maybe delayed start. Simon Goodwin tried to put this to bed on Thursday at his midweek press conference.
What I want to do is put that to bed. As a coach and as a club, there are no more excuses for us as a club. Start judging us on our performances and not on our pre-season. We're ready to go. We're fit. We've got a good 22 that's going out there to play. So let's judge us on our performances and let's stop the excuses.
Now, 2 days later, they fall to Norton 3. He speaks on radio on SEN this morning and has this to say.
Every single one of our midfielders was in rehab for the majority of the pre-season, so we're still working hard at training, trying to really build that chemistry back with our rucks and our inside mids.
What is it?
Well, he says to me that's a coach under pressure who is not believing what he's telling the media the day before the game. Yes, he's trying to sell a message to his players that we're good here, we're good to go on the interrupted pre-season, and the lack of fitness of some players, in particular Stephen May, it's been a distraction this week, not good enough. He's trying to put that away so the players aren't thinking about that going into the game. But it's an excuse, and he's thinking after the game, well, this is what's happening, and he's trying to explain their performances. So he didn't do a very good job of it. Difference in those quotes only 2 days apart was pretty different, wasn't it, Mitch? And they got some big questions to answer this week, Melbourne.
Back to Thursday night, and a man who might push Lachie Neale for the Brownlow, Paddy Dangerfield, was afforded all sorts of space at the Adelaide Oval.
Couldn't believe it. Could not believe what I was watching from Adelaide and the lack of respect for arguably the game's best player. We're showing this. Is it stoppage? The Crouch brothers are involved. It wasn't just them, though. It was all of Adelaide's midfield. I want to stop it there. Look at the space Dangerfield has. That's goal side. He had 7 clearances and 21 disposals in the first half, Patrick Dangerfield. He was the best man on the ground by a mile. Look at him. He's just sitting out there by himself. Matt Crouch gets sucked into the ball because he wants to win the ball. That's a selfish midfield who, one of their players, isn't prepared to sacrifice their game and go and stand one of the game's best players. Once again, they let him get goal side. Kicks a big goal. Geelong go right up late in the third quarter, and that's a game-winning lead. So Adelaide's midfield, used the word selfish, that's what it was, because no one, for that brief moment, was prepared to sacrifice their game and stop one of the game's best players. So Don Pike was out-coached again on Thursday night. He was out-coached in round 1. So, if I was the Adelaide board, I'd just be knocking on his door and saying, how can we give the game's best player that much room? And surely there was a plan to try and stop him midweek. And if there was, well, then the players didn't execute it.
One of their best outside runners, Paul Seedsman, expected to spend a bit of time on the sidelines with a knee injury. Now, to the rest of the round, tomorrow the Western Bulldogs taking on Gold Coast. The Dogs can go 3-0 and a big game at the MCG.
Yeah, huge game, Hawthorn and North Melbourne. Massive for North Melbourne. Chad Wingard's first game for Hawthorn as well. We're all excited to see what he can do. And then Fremantle and St Kilda. You'd think it's going to be tough for the Saints in Perth. Not too many teams are going to go there and win, you wouldn't think.
One more thing, and that was Patrick Cripps at the Marvel Stadium today. He's carried Carlton on his shoulders for a long time. He's even doing it for the opposition now.
Oh, it's pretty symbolic, isn't it? Once again, Cripps is their best player. He has been for the last, 3 seasons. He needs some help. And that image right there is Patrick Cripps just carrying Carlton at Marvel Stadium again today.
I even heard he give you a whack during the week
on the
footy show.
He did give me a whack. I've been one of his biggest fans too.
Okay, Carlton fans, let us know what you think. Hashtag the round so far for Kane's comments on the Blues. Thanks for that, Kane. Thanks for that, Mel Horsey. We'll see you same time, same place here on the round so far.